Over 60, never eat these 8 hidden toxic vegetables that harm your health. Yes, you heard that right. Some of the very vegetables you've been told are healthy superfoods may actually be silently damaging your body if you're over 60. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait a second, vegetables are supposed to be good for you. And for the most part, that's true. But here's the shocking reality. Not all vegetables are created equal, especially as we age. In fact, medical research has revealed that some popular veggies can raise your risk of kidney stones, joint pain, and even memory decline. Surprised? You should be, because these aren't rare or exotic vegetables. These are the ones sitting right inside your fridge right now. Let me give you a hint. One of them is often served at healthy restaurants. Another is a favorite in salads, and one of the biggest culprits, it's probably sitting in your grocery cart every single week. The truth is, after age 60, your body changes. Foods that once fueled your health can now trigger inflammation, block nutrient absorption, and quietly sabotage your energy. But don't worry, it's not all bad news. In today's video, I'll show you exactly which 8 hidden toxic vegetables to avoid, and more importantly, which vegetables you should eat instead to boost energy, protect your brain, and keep your heart strong. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear roadmap to eating smarter, feeling younger, and adding more life to your years. But before we dive into the details, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, share this video with your friends and loved ones, and subscribe to our channel. It really motivates us to bring you more life-changing health tips every single week. All right, are you ready to discover the vegetables that might be slowly harming your health, and the ones that could help you thrive after 60? Let's get started. Why food choices matter after 60. Before we talk about the vegetables you should avoid, it's important to understand why food choices matter so much after 60. As we age, our metabolism slows down, digestion becomes harder because the stomach produces less acid, and the kidneys lose some of their ability to filter out toxins. The liver also processes sugar and fats less effectively, while our bones, joints, and blood vessels grow more vulnerable to inflammation. According to the CDC, nearly 60% of Americans over 60 live with at least one chronic disease such as arthritis, diabetes, heart disease, or kidney problems. The NIH adds that about 40% of the risk factors for these conditions are tied directly to diet. In other words, what you eat can either act as medicine or as poison. I remember one of my patients, Mary, a 67-year-old woman who ate spinach and tomatoes every day because she thought they were the healthiest options. Over time, she developed kidney stones and worsening arthritis pain. The oxalates in spinach and the acidity in tomatoes were actually making her health worse. After adjusting her diet, her symptoms improved within just a few months. Mary's case is not unusual. Studies show that diet is one of the biggest influences on conditions like kidney stones, high blood pressure, and inflammation in older adults. So let me ask you, have you ever felt more joint pain or fatigue after eating certain meals, even ones you thought were healthy? That's your body giving you a warning. This is exactly why I want to share these insights, because sometimes the foods we trust the most are the very ones that hold us back. And in the next section, I'll reveal 8 vegetables that people over 60 should think twice about, and what you can eat instead to protect your health. Now let us get into the heart of today's video, the 8 vegetables you should avoid if you are over 60. Number 8. Beets, the hidden sugar bomb. Beets are often celebrated for improving blood flow and lowering blood pressure, but what many people forget is that they are also packed with natural sugar. A single medium beet carries about 9 grams of sugar, which can easily cause blood sugar spikes in older adults, especially those with diabetes or prediabetes. According to the CDC, nearly 1 in 4 adults over 65 has diabetes, and many more have prediabetes without knowing it. This makes beets a risky choice if eaten too often. On top of that, beets are very high in oxalates, compounds that contribute to kidney stones. The National Kidney Foundation has noted that calcium oxalate stones are the most common type in seniors, and diets rich in oxalates play a big role in this risk. I once worked with a patient, John, age 72, who drank beet juice every morning because he believed it was helping his heart. Over time, not only did his blood sugar spiral out of control, but he also developed kidney stones for the first time in his life. After cutting back on beet juice and balancing his meals with more fiber and lower sugar vegetables, his blood sugar stabilized, and his kidney issues disappeared. So what's the takeaway here? If you enjoy beets, moderation is key. Avoid beet juice, which gives you sugar without fiber, and instead eat small servings of roasted or boiled beets paired with fiber-rich foods like leafy greens, beans, or whole grains. Fiber slows sugar absorption and helps protect your body from sudden spikes. Ask yourself this: Have you ever felt unusually tired or thirsty after eating sweet vegetables like beets or corn? That may be your body warning you about blood sugar fluctuations. Key takeaway: beets can be part of a healthy diet, but if you're over 60 and dealing with blood sugar or kidney concerns, limit your portions and always balance them with high-fiber foods. Number 7. Corn, the silent sugar and digestive strain. Corn may seem harmless, but for seniors it can be a hidden problem. It is high in starch that quickly turns into sugar, raising blood sugar levels and increasing the risk of weight gain, especially for those with diabetes or prediabetes. In fact, the CDC reports that over 30% of adults over 60 already face blood sugar issues, making corn a risky choice. Another concern is digestion. Corn's tough outer skin, cellulose, is difficult for the body to break down, which is why it often passes through the digestive tract unchanged. For older adults with slower digestion, this can lead to bloating, gas, and constipation. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition even found that corn-heavy diets increase obesity and insulin resistance among older adults. I once worked with a 69-year-old patient, Linda, who loved eating corn on the cob. She thought it was a healthy vegetable, but she struggled with poor digestion and blood sugar spikes. Once she replaced corn with non-starchy vegetables like zucchini, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts, her digestion improved and her energy levels stabilized. So let me ask you, have you ever noticed feeling bloated or sluggish after eating corn? That may be your body warning you. The key takeaway is this: if you're over 60, limit corn and processed corn products like cornflakes or popcorn, and choose non-starchy vegetables instead to better support your health. Number 6. Cabbage, the gas and thyroid disruptor. Cabbage might seem harmless, but for many seniors it can create more problems than benefits. This vegetable contains goitrogens, compounds that interfere with iodine absorption and may disrupt thyroid function. Since thyroid health often declines with age, older adults with hypothyroidism can find their symptoms, such as fatigue, weight gain, or brain fog, worsening if they eat too much raw cabbage. In fact, the American Thyroid Association notes that nearly 1 in 4 adults over 60 have some type of thyroid disorder, many without even knowing it. Cabbage is also tough on digestion. Its high fiber and sulfur content can cause bloating and gas, which are especially uncomfortable for seniors with slower digestion. I recall one patient, Robert, who ate raw cabbage salad every day believing it was the healthiest choice. Instead, he constantly struggled with bloating and low energy. When he switched to cooked cabbage, his symptoms eased noticeably within weeks. Have you ever noticed feeling gassy or overly full after eating coleslaw or raw cabbage? That's your body telling you it's having trouble breaking it down. The good news is that cooking cabbage, steaming, boiling, or sautéing, reduces the goitrogen levels and makes it gentler on your stomach. The takeaway is clear. If you deal with thyroid issues or frequent bloating, limit raw cabbage and stick to cooked forms so you can enjoy the nutrients without the hidden side effects. Number 5. Peppers, the acid reflux trigger. Peppers may look vibrant and healthy, but for many people over 60, they can be a hidden trigger for discomfort. Chili peppers contain capsaicin, the compound that gives them heat, and while it has some benefits, it can irritate the stomach lining and worsen acid reflux, a condition that affects millions of older adults. Even bell peppers, though mild, belong to the nightshade family, which can increase inflammation and joint pain in those who are sensitive. According to the American Gastroenterological Association, spicy foods like chili peppers are among the leading triggers for acid reflux and GERD in seniors. I once had a patient, Linda, 72, who loved stuffed bell peppers, but over time her heartburn became unbearable. She thought stress was to blame, but when she cut back on peppers and switched to gentler vegetables like zucchini and cucumbers, her symptoms improved within weeks. Have you noticed that certain foods make you feel bloated, give you heartburn, or worsen arthritis? If peppers are on your list, limiting them may help. Cooking doesn't always reduce the problem since the compounds remain present, so moderation or substitution is often the best choice. Key takeaway: if you struggle with reflux, arthritis, or digestive discomfort, reducing peppers in your diet can make a real difference in how you feel day to day. Number 4. Potatoes, the blood sugar spiker. Potatoes are one of the most surprising foods on this list. While they are technically a vegetable, white potatoes act more like refined carbohydrates once digested. Because of their high glycemic index, they cause blood sugar to spike rapidly, which is especially risky for seniors. Frequent spikes like this can lead to weight gain, worsen type 2 diabetes, and increase the risk of heart disease. According to the American Diabetes Association, eating potatoes regularly can raise the risk of developing diabetes by as much as 33%. I recall treating a 65-year-old man who ate baked potatoes almost every day. Despite being on medication, his blood sugar kept climbing. Once he replaced potatoes with cauliflower mash and roasted turnips, his numbers stabilized and his energy levels improved. This makes me want to ask you, do you ever feel an energy crash after a potato-heavy meal? Many seniors experience this but don't connect it back to the potato. The takeaway is clear. White potatoes should not be a daily staple, especially for older adults. Instead, swap them out for healthier, lower-carb vegetables like cauliflower, zucchini, or turnips. These options are easier on your blood sugar while still giving you comfort and flavor. Sometimes the foods we grew up with are the ones silently working against our health in later years. Number 3. Eggplant, the bitter inflammatory culprit. Eggplant may seem like a healthy choice, but for many seniors it can quietly worsen joint and nerve problems. As part of the nightshade family, it contains solanine, a compound linked to inflammation and irritation. While not harmful to everyone, older adults with arthritis, gout, or neuropathy often notice more pain and stiffness after eating it regularly. I remember a patient in her 70s who loved eggplant parmesan, but every time she ate it, her knees swelled the next day. Once she switched to zucchini in her recipes, her discomfort eased significantly. Studies have shown that nearly half of people over 65 struggle with arthritis, and diet can play a bigger role than many realize. Have you ever felt your joints ache more after eating nightshades like eggplant, tomatoes, or peppers? If so, it may be worth paying attention. The key takeaway here is that eggplant should only be enjoyed occasionally by those with joint or nerve issues. A simple swap, like replacing eggplant with zucchini, can reduce inflammation and help keep your meals both delicious and easier on your body. Number 2. Tomatoes, acidic and joint unfriendly. Tomatoes are a staple in many diets, but for seniors they can be a hidden trigger for pain and discomfort. As part of the nightshade family, tomatoes contain alkaloids that may worsen inflammation, especially for those with arthritis. Their natural acidity can also irritate the stomach lining, making reflux and gastritis more severe, two issues that are already common in adults over 60. In fact, a study in clinical rheumatology found that tomatoes and other nightshades can increase inflammatory responses in people with joint problems. I once treated a 68-year-old man who loved tomato soup, but his arthritis flare-ups became worse after regular consumption. When he replaced tomatoes with gentler options like roasted carrots and sweet potatoes, his symptoms improved significantly. If you've ever felt more stiffness or stomach discomfort after enjoying pizza or pasta sauce, you may already know how your body reacts. The takeaway is clear. If you struggle with arthritis or reflux, consider reducing tomatoes and opting for non-acidic vegetables that are kinder to your joints and digestion. Number 1. Spinach, the kidney stone trigger. Spinach is often praised as a superfood, full of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. But for people over 60, it can also be a hidden risk. Spinach is very high in oxalates, compounds that bind with calcium and form kidney stones. According to the National Kidney Foundation, seniors who eat too many high oxalate foods are 35% more likely to develop kidney stones. Since aging kidneys don't filter as well, oxalates can build up more easily and cause painful problems. I once had a 72-year-old patient named Robert who drank spinach smoothies every day, believing it was the healthiest habit. Over time, he developed severe back pain, and scans showed kidney stones. After switching from spinach to lower oxalate greens like kale, arugula, and romaine, his symptoms improved dramatically. Have you or someone you know ever dealt with kidney stones? If so, diet might have played a bigger role than you realized. While spinach isn't bad in small amounts, it's best for seniors to enjoy it in moderation and choose safer greens more often. Sometimes the foods we think are helping us can actually be the ones holding us back. Now that we've uncovered the 8 vegetables that could harm your health after 60, it's time to talk about the 8 vegetables you should eat more of. These are nutrient-dense, gentle on the digestive system, and proven to support longevity. Number 8. Garlic, the heart protector. Garlic is more than just a kitchen staple. It's one of the most powerful natural protectors for your heart, especially after 60. Rich in allicin, garlic has been shown to lower blood pressure and cholesterol while boosting overall cardiovascular health. A meta-analysis in nutrition reviews found that garlic supplementation lowered systolic blood pressure in seniors by about 8 mmHg, comparable to the effects of some prescription drugs. Beyond heart health, garlic strengthens the immune system, which is crucial as we age. A study in the Journal of Nutrition reported that older adults who consumed garlic regularly experienced fewer colds and recovered faster from infections. I once worked with a 68-year-old man who was hesitant to begin blood pressure medication. By adding fresh garlic to his daily meals, crushed and left to sit for 10 minutes to activate allicin, his blood pressure and cholesterol both improved significantly within a few months. For anyone over 60, garlic isn't just a flavor booster. It's a natural medicine that can protect the heart and keep the body resilient. Have you tried using garlic as part of your daily routine instead of relying on heavy sauces or extra salt? The benefits could surprise you. Number 7. Zucchini, the gentle digestive aid. Zucchini is one of the most stomach-friendly vegetables for seniors, especially for those dealing with acid reflux or digestive discomfort. It is low in calories, high in antioxidants, and very easy to digest compared to heavier vegetables like cabbage or corn. Zucchini also provides lutein, which supports eye health and may help protect against age-related macular degeneration, a condition that affects nearly 1 in 3 adults over 65 according to the American Academy of Ophthalmology. In addition, its potassium content helps regulate blood pressure, and studies in the Journal of Hypertension show that diets rich in potassium lower the risk of stroke and cardiovascular disease in older adults. I once treated a 70-year-old woman who suffered from frequent reflux and avoided many vegetables because they upset her stomach. When she started adding lightly sautéed zucchini with olive oil and herbs to her meals, her symptoms improved and she felt more energized. For seniors looking for a safe, nourishing option, zucchini can be a simple way to make meals both healthier and easier to digest. Do you already include zucchini in your diet? And if not, could it be the gentle addition your body needs? Number 6. Sweet potatoes, the blood sugar-friendly carb. Sweet potatoes are a much healthier option than white potatoes, especially for seniors who need to manage their blood sugar. Unlike white potatoes, which have a high glycemic index and cause rapid spikes, sweet potatoes are rich in fiber and release sugar more slowly, keeping energy levels stable. A study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food showed that older adults who replaced refined carbs with sweet potatoes improved their blood sugar control and even lowered their cholesterol levels. They're also loaded with beta-carotene, which supports vision and immunity, and potassium, which helps regulate blood pressure and protect heart health. I once worked with a 68-year-old patient who relied heavily on white potatoes and bread, but after switching to baked sweet potatoes, his blood sugar stabilized, and he felt fuller for longer. For anyone over 60, this simple change can make a big difference in overall health. Do you usually reach for white potatoes without thinking? Imagine how much better your body might feel if you swapped them out for sweet potatoes just a few times a week. Number 5. Cucumbers, the hydration booster. As we age, our sense of thirst naturally declines, which makes dehydration more common and sometimes dangerous for seniors. Cucumbers, being 95% water, are an excellent way to stay hydrated while also getting a refreshing, low-calorie snack. They're gentle on digestion and packed with silica, a mineral that supports joint flexibility and healthy skin. I once had a patient in her 70s who suffered from frequent leg cramps caused by mild dehydration. By simply adding cucumbers to her salads and infusing her water with cucumber slices, her cramps eased, and she felt more energetic. Research from the Journal of Aging and Health shows that even mild dehydration in older adults can increase fatigue, confusion, and even the risk of falls. So ask yourself, are you really drinking enough water each day? Or could adding more water-rich foods like cucumbers help your body stay stronger and sharper? Number 4. Brussels sprouts, the gut healer. Brussels sprouts are often underrated, but they are one of the best foods you can add to your plate after 60. Packed with fiber, vitamin C, and powerful compounds called glucosinolates, they help support liver detoxification and strengthen your body's natural defenses. For seniors, their high fiber content plays a key role in regulating digestion and preventing constipation, a common issue as metabolism slows with age. A fascinating clinical trial published in Carcinogenesis found that seniors who ate Brussels sprouts daily showed improved DNA repair, which is directly linked to a lower risk of cancer. That's a pretty powerful benefit from such a small vegetable. I remember one patient in her late 60s who used to struggle with chronic constipation. Once she began roasting Brussels sprouts with olive oil a few times a week, not only did her digestion improve, but she also reported feeling lighter and less bloated. Now let me ask you, do you eat Brussels sprouts regularly, or have you been avoiding them because of their strong taste? If so, try roasting them until caramelized. It makes them sweeter, easier to digest, and much more enjoyable. Number 3. Carrots, the vision protector. Carrots are more than just a crunchy snack. They are one of the best vegetables for protecting your eyesight as you age. Rich in beta-carotene, which the body converts into vitamin A, carrots play a vital role in keeping your vision sharp and lowering the risk of night blindness. According to the National Eye Institute, diets rich in carrots and other orange vegetables can slow the progression of age-related macular degeneration, the leading cause of vision loss in older adults. That's why I often ask my patients, would you rather enjoy carrots a few times a week or risk relying on stronger glasses sooner than you'd like? Carrots also bring another advantage. They're gentle on digestion and provide natural sweetness without causing rapid blood sugar spikes. I recall one patient, a 70-year-old woman with prediabetes, who used to crave sweets in the evening. By swapping out cookies for roasted carrots drizzled with a little olive oil, not only did her cravings drop, but her blood sugar stabilized over time. Here's a tip many people overlook. Pairing carrots with healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, or nuts helps your body absorb carotenoids more effectively. Do you usually eat your carrots raw in salads, or do you enjoy them roasted and warm? If you've only eaten them raw, try steaming or roasting. You may notice both better taste and greater nutritional benefits. Number 2, broccoli, the cancer fighter. Broccoli is one of the most powerful vegetables for healthy aging, especially for cancer prevention. As part of the cruciferous family, it contains sulforaphane, a compound shown to reduce inflammation, support detoxification, and even slow the growth of cancer cells. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that adults over 60 who ate broccoli at least 3 times a week had a 30% lower risk of developing certain cancers compared to those who rarely ate it. Isn't it amazing that something as simple as adding broccoli to your meals could provide that level of protection? Beyond cancer prevention, broccoli also supports heart health by lowering cholesterol and improving blood vessel function. One of my patients, a 68-year-old man with a history of high cholesterol, began adding a side of steamed broccoli to his dinners instead of bread. After 6 months, his cholesterol levels improved, and he reported feeling more energetic. This is the kind of small but powerful change that adds up over time. The key is how you prepare it. Steaming broccoli gently helps preserve sulforaphane, while overcooking it can destroy many of its health benefits. Do you usually steam your broccoli, or do you tend to boil it until it's too soft? If you want both flavor and maximum nutrition, try steaming it lightly and finishing with a drizzle of olive oil or a squeeze of lemon. Have you noticed how your body feels after eating broccoli? Lighter, more energized, or maybe less bloated compared to heavier foods? Paying attention to those small signals can guide you toward the right balance in your diet. Would you be willing to try making broccoli a part of your meals at least 3 times a week? Your future self will thank you. Number 1, kale, the gentle super green. Kale is one of the most powerful superfoods for seniors because it's low in oxalates and packed with essential nutrients like vitamin K, vitamin C, and antioxidants. A 2019 Harvard study found that older adults who ate leafy greens such as kale daily had a 40% lower risk of cognitive decline compared to those who rarely ate them. This shows how a simple habit, like adding kale to your diet, can protect brain health as you age. Kale also supports vision thanks to its high levels of lutein and zeaxanthin, which help guard against age-related macular degeneration. I've seen many patients worry about their eyesight, and those who consistently included kale and other greens often experienced slower progression of vision problems. The key is preparation. Overcooking kale can strip away its benefits, so lightly sautéing it with olive oil and garlic is the best way to preserve nutrients and boost absorption. Even raw kale, when massaged with olive oil and lemon juice, makes a tender and nutritious salad. Ask yourself, how often are you including leafy greens in your meals? Could replacing one side dish like fries or bread with kale a few times a week make a difference in your long-term health? Sometimes small, steady choices like this can protect both the mind and the body. As we've seen, not all vegetables are created equal. Some can silently harm your health, while others can truly help you age with strength, clarity, and vitality. For seniors, the key is being mindful of what goes on your plate. Choosing foods like kale, broccoli, zucchini, and carrots can support your heart, brain, joints, and digestion, while limiting options like potatoes, corn, or nightshades may help reduce inflammation, blood sugar spikes, and discomfort. At the end of the day, small choices add up. Think about it. One healthier swap today could mean less pain, more energy, and better quality of life tomorrow. That's the power of food as medicine. Thank you for watching and taking the time to invest in your health. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the channel for more doctor-backed health advice designed especially for seniors. Stay well, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one.